The ultimatum. The message arrived at precisely 3:42 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, bypassing every encryption protocol and security measure humanity had established over the last century. It appeared simultaneously on billions of devices worldwide, from government supercomputers to civilian smartwatches, overriding all existing displays with the same simple text. The 1,000-year observation period has concluded. Earth will be integrated into the galactic concordat within 72 hours. Resistance is unnecessary and inefficient. In the vast underground complex of the Global Emergency Response Center beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Elise Chen stared at the projection floating before her, the blue light casting ghostly shadows across her face. As Earth's chief sinological communications officer, she had spent 15 years preparing for this moment. Yet nothing in her extensive training had suggested the proper protocol for an ultimatum delivered via emoji. Because directly beneath the ominous text was a simple smiley face. Not a standard one, but a peculiar alien approximation that looked more like a hexagonal flower with too many eyes. "They can't be serious," General Ibrahim muttered beside her, his weathered hands clenched tightly behind his back. The military leaders of 17 nations stood in a semicircle, their faces ranging from ashen terror to barely contained rage. Dr. Chen tapped her neural interface, expanding the projection to display the transmission's metadata. The signal origin is approximately 400,000 kilometers from Earth, just beyond lunar orbit. She tilted her head, analyzing the cascading information. "And yes, General, I believe they are entirely serious. We need to ready the kinetic defense grid," Commander Zhao of the Pan-Asian Alliance said, his voice tight with controlled panic. "The orbital platforms would be about as effective as throwing pebbles at a tsunami." Dr. Chen interrupted, continuing to scroll through the data stream. "The energy signature from their vessels suggests technology at least 3 centuries beyond our most advanced theoretical physics." The room fell silent as the full weight of the situation settled over them. Humanity, despite its remarkable progress since the technological acceleration of the mid-21st century, remained a planetary species. Their ventures beyond Earth extended only to a modest Mars colony and a handful of orbital habitats. The stars, for all their scientific understanding, remained practically unreachable. And now, the stars had come to them. Dr. Chen straightened her posture, brushing back a strand of silver-streaked black hair. At 53, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had spent decades challenging conventional wisdom. "We need to respond," she said simply. President Rivera of the North American Coalition stepped forward. "With what?" "Surrender." Dr. Chen's lips curved into a subtle smile. "No, with hospitality." The outcry was immediate and predictable. Military commanders argued for defensive postures, economists debated resource allocation in the face of certain doom, and political leaders wrestled with how to inform a global population that aliens had essentially sent Earth an interstellar eviction notice. Through it all, Dr. Chen remained unnervingly calm, occasionally tapping notes into her neural interface. When the cacophony finally subsided, she spoke again, her voice carrying the particular weight of someone accustomed to being the most unusual voice in the room. "For centuries, we've speculated about how humanity would react to first contact. We've created agencies, protocols, and defense systems. We've made movies and written books. But we've missed something fundamental." She paused, sweeping her gaze across the room. "We've never considered that perhaps the aliens would be the ones who are terrified." General Ibrahim scoffed. "The species that just bypassed our entire planetary defense grid with a text message is scared of us." "Not scared," Dr. Chen corrected. "Confused. Look at the message construction. Integration rather than conquest. Unnecessary rather than futile." And most tellingly, she expanded the strange alien emoji. "This attempt at cultural connection. These aren't the actions of conquerors. These are the actions of bureaucrats." She walked to the center of the room, the projection following her. I propose we respond not with fear or aggression, but with the most destabilizing force in human history, humor. The initial response to Dr. Chen's proposal was skepticism bordering on outrage. Yet 16 hours later, as the massive shadow of the alien flagship began eclipsing sections of the Pacific Ocean, the Global Council had few alternatives to offer. The alien vessel defied conventional design logic. Unlike the sleek, symmetrical ships of human science fiction, the galactic Concordat's vessel resembled a crystalline forest growing outward from a central core, branches and nodes extending in seemingly random patterns that somehow maintained perfect balance. It was beautiful in a deeply unsettling way, like a mathematics equation that simultaneously made perfect sense and no sense at all. Smaller vessels descended toward major population centers, not with weapons blazing, but with precise, almost surgical movements. They established hovering positions above 17 cities across the globe, maintaining perfect stillness approximately 300 meters above the tallest structures. And then they waited. They're expecting panic, Dr. Chen observed from her temporary command center in Singapore, one of the designated arrival sites. Look at their positioning, optimized for crowd control and rapid response. They've studied our conflict patterns. The alien ships had indeed positioned themselves with tactical precision. What they hadn't anticipated was the reaction they received. In New York, a massive projection appeared on Times Square, displaying an ancient animation of a small gray alien dancing to music from the early 2000s. In Lagos, thousands gathered in the streets with a hastily organized Welcome to Earth party, complete with homemade alien costumes. In Beijing, authorities distributed millions of masks designed to look like classic movie aliens, which citizens wore while conducting business as usual. No panic, no resistance, just billions of humans treating first contact like an elaborate global festival. The alien vessels remained motionless for 6 hours. Then, without warning, they broadcast a new message. This time, as an auditory communication in perfect, if oddly inflected, standard English. Human collective, your response is inappropriate and inefficient. Prepare for representative integration dialogue. Transmit coordinates for your governing authority. Dr. Chen, monitoring from Singapore, couldn't help but smile at the confusion evident in the mechanical translation. She activated the global response system they had prepared. Simultaneously, in every major language on Earth, humanity replied with a single message. We accept your invitation to dinner. Casual attire suggested. VYOB. The following 15 hours saw increasing confusion from the alien fleet. Their communications became more frequent, more insistent, and increasingly perplexed. They demanded clarification on Earth's governmental structure, which Dr. Chen's team responded to with links to various reality television shows about eccentric world leaders. They requested information about Earth's military capabilities, receiving in return compilations of game show bloopers and pet videos. They're getting frustrated, General Ibrahim noted, watching the communications feed. This could backfire spectacularly. Dr. Chen nodded, her expression more serious now. That's the point. We're establishing psychological leverage. They expected a rational response based on fear. We're giving them an irrational response based on joy. It's the equivalent of trying to play chess with someone who insists they're playing poker. The breakthrough came at hour 23, when a single alien shuttle broke formation and descended toward the Singapore command center. Unlike the crystal forest design of the larger vessels, this craft was surprisingly conventional, a smooth oval pod that landed with delicate precision on the designated platform. Dr. Chen straightened her simple black tunic, adjusted her neural interface, and walked alone to meet Earth's first official alien visitor. The being that emerged from the shuttle defied easy description. It moved like flowing water given solid form, its body a shifting interplay of translucent tissues and bioluminescent nodes. Multiple limbs. Dr. Chen counted 7 before giving up. Extended and retracted from its central mass as needed. What might have been a face consisted of 3 spiral patterns that continuously rotated in different directions. "I am Nexus Interpreter 13th Sequence," the being announced, its voice emerging not from any visible mouth, but from the vibration of its entire form. "You are disrupting standard integration protocols with non-standard communication patterns." Dr. Chen bowed slightly. "I am Dr. Elise Chen, representing Earth's various nations and peoples. Welcome to our world. We apologize for any confusion, but we don't have standard integration protocols. We barely have standard breakfast protocols." The alien spiral patterns rotated faster. Clarification required. "Are you the authorized negotiator for planetary surrender?" "I am authorized to host a conversation," Dr. Chen replied carefully. "As for surrender, I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. We weren't planning on surrendering today. It's not on the calendar." The alien's form rippled in what might have been agitation. "The Galactic Concordat has observed your species for 1,000 years. Integration is not optional. It is sequential and inevitable." "Ah." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "That explains the confusion. You see, humans don't really do inevitable very well. We're rather persistent about writing our own endings. Would you care for some tea while we discuss alternatives?" Over the next 24 hours, as the world held its collective breath, Dr. Chen engaged in what future historians would call the most important conversation in human history. The being called Nexus Interpreter did not accept tea, but it did accept the concept of dialogue. Dr. Chen learned that the Galactic Concordat wasn't so much an empire as a vast bureaucratic network connecting over 4,000 sentient species. For most of its existence, it had expanded through a careful process of observation, evaluation, and integration. Earth had been under observation since humanity developed agriculture, a standard monitoring period to determine if a species would develop sufficiently stable social structures to join the interstellar community, and what happened if we failed the evaluation. Dr. Chen asked, knowing the answer even before the alien's form shifted into a pattern she was beginning to recognize as discomfort. "Resource redistribution," Nexus Interpreter admitted. "Planets with intellect-bearing species that develop destructive tendencies are reorganized." "Exterminated," Dr. Chen translated flatly. "Efficiency requires difficult calculations," the alien responded. "But your species has passed preliminary evaluation. Your technological development curve suggests compatibility. You need only accept integration, and Earth will become a Concordat protectorate." Dr. Chen leaned forward. "And if we prefer independence?" The alien's movements stilled completely, a reaction Dr. Chen hadn't observed before. Independence is not a classification within Concordat protocols. All sentient species are either integrated or resources, Dr. Chen finished. As night fell over Singapore, the first part of humanity's greatest negotiation concluded without resolution. The alien returned to its shuttle, promising to relay Earth's procedural irregularities to the Concordat oversight. In the command center, world leaders waited anxiously for Dr. Chen's assessment. "They're bureaucrats," she announced, removing her neural interface with a tired sigh. "Powerful, advanced bureaucrats, but bureaucrats nonetheless. They've been following the same playbook for thousands of years, and we've just presented them with a situation their protocols don't cover." "Which is?" President Rivera prompted. Dr. Chen's exhausted expression broke into a genuine smile. "A species that responds to an existential threat by throwing a party and inviting the threat to dinner." Above Earth, the alien fleet remained in position, their crystalline structures catching the sunlight in rainbow patterns across the sky. They were waiting for updated protocols, a concept Dr. Chen suspected might take longer than they anticipated. Because if there was one thing humans understood better than most species in the galaxy, it was how to break a system by playing outside the rules. "So what happens now?" General Ibrahim asked, voicing the question on everyone's mind. Dr. Chen gazed up at the view screen showing the massive ships hanging like impossible stars above Earth's cities. Now we show them why humanity has survived every catastrophe we've ever faced." Her eyes gleamed with determination. We improvise. The human factor. The Concordat's fleet remained in Earth's orbit for 72 hours without further communication. To an outside observer, the massive crystalline ships might have appeared threatening in their silence, but Dr. Chen recognized the bureaucratic machinery at work. They're waiting for instructions, she explained to the Global Emergency Council during their dawn briefing. Their protocols didn't account for a species that doesn't immediately surrender or fight back. So we've confused them into inaction, President Rivera asked, looking both skeptical and hopeful. Temporarily, Dr. Chen cautioned. But bureaucracies, even interstellar ones, eventually adapt. We need to move from defense to engagement before they decide we're too unpredictable to integrate. Her proposal was audacious. Assemble a delegation not of diplomats or military strategists, but of Earth's most creative minds, artists, comedians, philosophers, and innovators, to showcase humanity's unique perspective to the Concordat representatives. You want to fight an alien invasion with performance art. General Ibrahim's voice carried both disbelief and grudging curiosity. Dr. Chen's expression remained serious. Not fight, communicate. The Concordat evaluates species based on predictable development patterns. Their observations of Earth have likely focused on our technological progression, resource management, and conflict resolution. They've missed what makes us unique. And what's that? A skeptical voice asked from the back of the room. Dr. Chen smiled. Our illogical leaps of intuition, our ability to find meaning in chaos, our capacity to create art and stories that transcend practical utility. She gestured toward the window, where the alien flagship hung like an impossible crystal mountain in the sky. They're expecting rational beings following rational self-interest. Let's show them something they've never encountered before. Within 24 hours, Singapore's Marina Bay had been transformed into what the media dubbed Humanity's Gallery, an evolving exhibition of human creativity, innovation, and thought. Musicians performed alongside quantum physicists demonstrating wave-particle duality. Culinary artists prepared fusion dishes while philosophers discussed the nature of consciousness. Children's art hung beside Renaissance masterpieces and cutting-edge neural network creations. The alien silence broke on the fourth day when 3 shuttles descended to the Marina Bay landing zone. Dr. Chen waited alongside her hastily assembled team of human exemplars, individuals selected not for political power, but for their embodiment of human creativity and resilience. The first to exit the central shuttle was Nexus Interpreter, its fluid form now adorned with additional nodules that Dr. Chen suspected might indicate increased authority. It was flanked by 2 other beings, one resembling a geometric abstraction of insectoid features, the other so nebulous that Dr. Chen's eyes struggled to define its boundaries. Greetings, Nexus Interpreter, Dr. Chen called out, stepping forward. Welcome to Humanity's Gallery. The alien's spiral patterns rotated with what she'd come to recognize as agitation. Clarification has been received from Concordat Oversight. Your species requires specialized integration protocols. Or perhaps, Dr. Chen suggested gently, your protocols require adaptation to our species. Please, allow us to show you who we are before discussing how we might fit into your Concordat. What followed was perhaps the most unusual diplomatic tour in human history. Dr. Chen led the alien delegation through exhibitions of human achievement, beginning not with technology or military might, but with music, a children's choir performing an ancient folk melody that echoed across the bay. Sound patterns for juvenile instruction, the insectoid alien inquired, its mandible-like appendages clicking softly. Music, corrected Maya Okafor, the Nigerian composer who had joined Dr. Chen's team. These patterns exist primarily for beauty, not function. The concept seemed to perplex the aliens, whose communication systems, Dr. Chen had learned, operated on strictly utilitarian principles. Information density and clarity were paramount, with no equivalent to human artistic expression. As they moved through the gallery, the aliens' confusion only deepened. They understood humanity's scientific achievements, but were baffled by how these achievements often originated from seemingly illogical creative intuition rather than sequential logical progression. You discovered principles of quantum entanglement through dreaming. Nexus Interpreters Forum rippled with what might have been disbelief as they spoke with Dr. Sanjay Mehta, a theoretical physicist whose breakthrough work had begun with a vivid dream of dancing particles. Many of our greatest scientific discoveries have emerged from unconscious processing, Dr. Mehta explained. Our minds work on problems even when we aren't deliberately thinking about them. The nebulous third alien, who had remained silent until now, suddenly pulsed with soft light. This explains the pattern irregularities in your species' development curve. You do not progress linearly. We certainly do not, Dr. Chen confirmed with a smile. Humanity thrives on unexpected connections and creative leaps. The tour culminated at the center of the gallery, where an interactive exhibition invited visitors to contribute to an evolving artwork, a massive collaborative creation that shifted and grew as more people engaged with it. Dr. Chen gestured for the aliens to participate. Nexus Interpreter hesitated. Clarification required. What is the function of this exercise? It has no function beyond itself, Dr. Chen explained. It exists, to grow, to connect us through shared creation. The concept seemed so foreign to the aliens that they remained motionless for several minutes, their forms shifting in what Dr. Chen interpreted as deep cognitive processing. Finally, tentatively, Nexus Interpreter extended a fluid appendage toward the installation. Where it touched, patterns of light responded, integrating the alien's unique energy signature into the collaborative work. Something shifted in that moment, a subtle change in the alien's posture that Dr. Chen recognized as profound surprise. You create without purpose, Nexus Interpreter stated, its tone suggesting this was a revolutionary concept. We create to understand ourselves and our universe, Dr. Chen corrected gently. The purpose is in the creation itself. The delegation's visit extended from the planned 3 hours to nearly 8, as the aliens examined increasingly diverse aspects of human culture. They watched children playing imaginative games, observed religious ceremonies from various traditions, and participated in a communal meal that featured cuisines from every continent. Throughout, Dr. Chen noted the aliens' growing agitation, not hostile, but something closer to intellectual distress. Their questions became more foundational, more philosophical. How do you maintain societal cohesion without centralized protocol distribution? Why do you value narratives that describe events that never occurred? What efficiency purpose is served by creating multiple solutions to the same problem? As sunset painted Singapore's skyline in gold and crimson, the aliens finally requested a private consultation with Dr. Chen. In a quiet room overlooking the bay, Nexus Interpreter's form settled into a configuration she hadn't seen before. Simpler, less actively shifting. Your species presents a classification anomaly, it began. The Concordette's observations focused on technological progression, resource utilization, and conflict patterns. These suggested a standard Type 3 pre-integration species. But, Dr. Chen prompted. But direct interaction reveals cognitive and social structures unlike any cataloged species. Your unpredictability extends beyond behavioral variance into foundational thought processes. The alien spirals rotated slowly. You find patterns where none exist, create without need, and value inefficiency when it produces what you call beauty. Dr. Chen nodded. We call it being human. It presents integration difficulties. The nebulous third alien interjected, its voice like whispering sand. Your species cannot be properly categorized within existing Concordate frameworks. Dr. Chen leaned forward. Perhaps integration isn't the right approach then. Perhaps partnership. The aliens fell silent, their forms nearly motionless. Dr. Chen recognized what was happening. They were communicating with their superiors, seeking guidance for this unprecedented situation. She waited patiently, gazing out at the evening sky, where the massive ships still hung like impossible jewelry. When they finally responded, It was the insectoid alien who spoke first. Partnership has no precedent in Concordat expansion history. Exactly, Dr. Chen smiled. No precedent, no protocols, no predictable outcomes, just like humanity itself. Nexus Interpreter's form shifted again, reorganizing into a configuration that somehow conveyed decisiveness. The Concordat Oversight has authorized a provisional classification designation for your species, Anomalous Cognition Collective. This designation permits temporary exemption from standard integration, while specialized protocols are developed. Dr. Chen recognized bureaucratic language for what it was, an elaborate way of saying, "We need to think about this more." She nodded graciously. And while these specialized protocols are being developed, limited exchange is permitted, Nexus Interpreter stated. Knowledge transfer, cultural observation, and provisional resource sharing. It wasn't independence, not exactly, but it was far from the surrender initially demanded. It was something unprecedented in the Concordat's 1,000-year history, a recognition that humanity might be valuable precisely because of its unpredictability. The delegation departed as mysteriously as it had arrived, the shuttles ascending silently to rejoin the fleet. Within hours, most of the Crystal Forest ships had vanished, leaving only 3 smaller vessels in Earth orbit. In the aftermath, as the Global Emergency Council debated the implications of humanity's new anomalous status, Dr. Chen found herself standing alone on the observation deck, watching the last light fade from the sky. "You look troubled for someone who just saved the world," said a voice behind her. General Ibrahim joined her at the railing, his normally stern face softened by exhaustion and relief. "I didn't save anything," Dr. Chen replied. "I just bought us time. Time is all we've ever needed." The general gestured toward the city below, where life was cautiously returning to normal despite the remaining alien ships overhead. "Humanity adapts. It's what we do." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "The Concordat doesn't understand us, because they've evolved beyond chaos. Their societies are perfectly ordered, their technologies developed along logical, predictable paths. They've eliminated disorder and unpredictability, along with creativity and intuition. And that's why they really came, isn't it?" Ibrahim asked, displaying the sharp insight that had earned him his rank. "Not to determine if we're worthy of joining them, but to understand why we're different," Dr. Chen finished. "They've been watching us create solutions they would never imagine, make connections their logical processes would never find. They don't want to integrate Earth because we're a threat or a resource." She turned to face the general, her expression resolute. "They want to integrate us because we're doing something they no longer can. We're still evolving, still creating, still surprising ourselves. And that capacity for surprise, for unpredictable innovation, that's what they've lost." 6 months later, as Earth established its first formal exchange program with Concordat scholars, Dr. Chen's theory would be confirmed. The aliens hadn't come as conquerors but as students, drawn by humanity's chaotic, inefficient, beautiful capacity for creativity. The Galactic Concordat had achieved near-perfect societies across thousands of worlds, eliminating war, poverty, and disease. But in their pursuit of perfect order, they had engineered away something essential, the productive chaos from which new ideas emerge. Their technological progress had plateaued centuries ago, their cultural evolution frozen in efficient perfection. They had come to Earth not to give humanity the stars, but because humanity might show them how to dream again. In her new role as Earth's ambassador to the Concordat, Dr. Chen often reflected on that first encounter. How a species advanced enough to cross galaxies had been thoroughly confounded by human jokes, art, and celebration. How creatures who could manipulate the fundamental forces of physics had been bewildered by children playing make-believe. The 1,000-year peace hadn't ended with Earth's surrender or destruction. It had ended with something far more profound, the recognition that the galaxy's most advanced civilization might have something vital to learn from its most chaotic newcomer. Humanity hadn't fought the alien invasion. They had simply been themselves, unpredictable, creative, and stubbornly determined to find their own path. And somehow, that had been enough. On the 1-year anniversary of first contact, as representatives from Earth prepared for the first human delegation to the Concordat's central hub, Dr. Chen received a personal communication from Nexus Interpreter. It contained only a single line of text, followed by a perfectly rendered human emoji, a smiley face. The message read, "Efficiency is overrated. Thank you for the tea." Dr. Chen laughed, the sound echoing through her office, one more unpredictable human response in a universe that was slowly remembering how to be surprised.